Ooh.
All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. I am actually back home in Sacramento in Sacktown, so I'm in Northern California right now. Uh, Everyone, thank you so much for joining. And today we have a special guest, Brother Aamdu Masali. Masali.
Yes, yes.
Brother Aamdu Masali. And he has an upcoming tour to Sierra Leone, which is when?
December 27th to
Okay,
January 7th, 2020.
okay. December 27th to January 7th. Um, so he wanted to talk about that. And also, I guess you're giving away a free ticket, I guess, or
Yes, we're actually doing a couple of things. We'll be giving a free DNA kit and also a free tickets to Sierra Leone. But we'll talk about some of that as we
okay, yeah. So we'll get
right?
into that. So let's see here. Let's do some house cleaning real quick, housekeeping, as they say, before we get started. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the platform, please subscribe, please like, please hit that notification bell, please share the content. Also, make sure you go to dynastymirror.com. Just about all my information, sites, everything is right there. So please go to dynastymirror.com. Let's see, what else do we have here? Also too, March 20th through the 26th, tour to Nigeria, celebrating the 1 year anniversary of my coronation in Otoruo. So that's coming up in March 20th through the 26th. So if you guys are interested in that, join us. Send me email, uhuru at searchforuhuru.com, or go to dynastymirror.com. Just reach out, hit me up. I'll holler back. I know a lot of people get surprised when I actually call people back. Yes, I will personally call you from my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number, not a burner phone, not a Google Hangout phone, like my personal cell phone number. You will get a phone call when you reach out to me. So, Brother Aamdu, let's jump right into it.
Yes.
So the tour coming up, if you want to give us
Yes, from December 27th to 2019 to January 7th, 2020, we'll be taking about 50 African Americans to Sierra Leone. And we're going on a historical study tour. So I'm sure you've heard about many different route tours going into Africa, especially this year. Ghana has the Door of Return, where many African Americans have been, tracing their ancestry to these West African countries and visiting.
Can I ask you a quick question real quick? I'm sorry, I got to ask you a question. So Sierra Leone is actually giving citizenship for those who to prove that they come from one of these
happened.
tribes. Why won't Ghana do the same thing?
I think Ghana does, no?
No.
They don't give citizenship yet?
No.
It's a tricky thing. I think even Sierra Leone, we got feedback recently that it has to be done in a proper manner, and because there are some legalities involved, and it's not just about going to Sierra Leone and getting a passport and becoming a citizen. There are some legalities that are constitutional oriented, and we're not sure if that has been really looked into yet from our country's perspective. However,
I think literally, if you just have the certificate saying that you're part of one of those tribes, you bring that, your birth certificate, and you go to immigration. I mean, everybody I know that's done it, it's
And I do know people who have done it like that too. In fact, I do know some of the people at the immigration who do this type of work. So right. Yeah, I'm not disputing that. We have just recently they were giving 17 passports. Earlier, right. 6 people got the passport from the president himself. So
yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a good way to sort of steer African Americans back into the continent of Africa. But we do more than just that, because we want to do beyond just passport tourism, for lack of a better way to put it. We want to make sure that people understand their origin, if anything. Right. So that's the kind of stuff that we do, and that's what we'll be doing when we go in December. It's more like a pilgrimage. So we show our guests that Sierra Leone participated in the transatlantic slave trade, when we show them Bonds Island. So Bonds Island, in my biased opinion, is the single most important piece of historical monument for African Americans outside of Africa, outside of America,
Why do you say that?
because of the close ties it has with African Americans, particularly Gullah Geechee people from South Carolina, Georgia, some Florida, yeah, and North Carolina. So
Okay.
you want me to continue on?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so we're taking these guys basically to show them that Sierra Leone has three elements that it can show, and that's unique to us. So we participated in the slave trade, and we'll go to Buns Island, where history sleeps. History sleeps in the sense that since it was abandoned in the early 1800s, nothing has happened there. I mean, 1839, I think, was the last time it was used as a windmill. But since then, no one lives there. There's no commercial activities. It's just a fortress that's sleeping, if you will. So we show them that stuff. We talk about the history around that, and then we're going to go to a second area of the three elements that we're showing: resistance. See, Africans resisted the slave trade even in Sierra Leone. They built a village on the mesa, up top where they could see few miles around them, and they protected themselves up there during the transatlantic slave trade because they could see invaders coming from afar, and they would prepare themselves. And the relics are still up there, so we need the world to see that, to show that Africans did, went at great lengths to protect themselves from the slave trade, even against their own people. And then finally, we're going to Freetown, where we show the element of abolition, or freedom, because some free enslaved people, formerly enslaved people, went back home to Africa and in Sierra Leone. In fact, they started the colony, although there were already people there, but it was them that led the Brits to come into Sierra Leone to start the colony of Freetown, which was one of the first colonies along the west coast of Africa. So three things: slavery, resistance, and abolition. That's what we show, I guess, when we go primarily. But we're also doing some cool stuff in addition to that. For example, there's going to be a Gullah woman, a seventh generation descendant of a sweetgrass basket maker. She's going to go into a village in Sierra Leone where Sierra Leoneans have never seen anyone other than them make these baskets. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. And also, she's going to take a basket that she's going to start here in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. She's going to take it to Freetown, Sierra Leone, where Sierra Leoneans will finish making that basket. So that basket will eventually have a lot of value because it will be showing, cross-cultural participation in creating them. We have some more cool things we're doing. We will be going to see a film called The Language You Crying at the ambassador's office, at the U.S. Embassy in Sierra Leone. We'll also be having a mayor's ball. The mayor of Freetown is hosting us. And we are hoping for a state dinner, which means some of our guests may meet the president of Sierra Leone, but we're not sure yet. However, these are some of the things we'll be doing when we go into town for Christmas, or after Christmas.
Now, from my understanding, now you said Bunch Island, correct?
Bunce, B-U-N-C-E.
With that being said,
Island, yes.
I will actually be in Sierra Leone shooting 2 weeks. I'll be in Liberia and Sierra Leone. I arrive in Liberia December 9th, and then I'm coming to Sierra Leone December 13th. I won't be there too long. I'll be there from the 13th to the 17th. Yeah. Then I go back to Liberia, and I come back to the States. So I'm actually coming to Sierra Leone here in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that. I'm going to see the men. So on my mother's side, we have Mende blood in us. Some Mende blood in us. So
wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, I'm not eligible for the citizenship because I'm already Nigerian, naturalized in Nigeria. So. With that being said, if I were to get Sierra Leone's citizenship, I would involuntarily lose my Nigerian citizenship, and I'm not giving that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I get up. So my family, because of the slave trade, we're, the DNA, we're all over the place. So Nigerian, Sierra Leonean, we're everywhere. So I'm can't give up the. Definitely not giving up the Nigerian for not giving that up. That's
Sure, sure.
so yeah. So, but I'm still looking forward to coming to Sierra Leone and gonna go spend some time with the Mende, see the masquerades, and yeah, all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
the longest text in anything African preserved by a private family in these United States is a Mende song, a 5-line Mende song. And interesting enough, that song that is still being sung in Harris Neck, Georgia, around Savannah area, was found in Sierra Leone in 1997. The
What's that
same
again?
song.
What's the song?
It's called the language Iran.
Uh-huh.
So a linguist here called Dr. Lorenzo Turner had recorded, Gola speech, Gola words, and all of that good stuff, and he was able to record this 5-line song that a lady called Amelia Dolly sang in 1931.
Okay.
To make a long story short, that particular song was traced back to a remote village in Sierra Leone, and in 1997, this family went to Sierra Leone to sort of reconnect with that group of people. It's an amazing story. We have stories like that. I could tell you about someone I call my sister, Tomalyn Polite. She's in Charleston, South Carolina. She is the only person in the world that can trace her ancestry through historical evidence. And it traces back to a 10-year-old girl that was taken from Bonds Island in 1756.
Wow.
She's in Charleston, South Carolina today. She's been to Sierra Leone once. We're thinking about taking them on our next trip to Sierra Leone. It will be, Priscilla going home again. And I think at this point it's good to share what we plan on doing for next year. We launched a new YouTube site, and we're asking that the first 1,000 subscribers will choose a winner for DNA kits.
Okay.
Also,
What's the so I can put it in the, you know what, can you email me or Xina, if you're in the chat room, email, in fact I think she emailed it to me already, email me the link to your YouTube so I can put it in the chat room.
Sure. All right. And then and then when we get to the first paid 20 people deposited, I didn't tell you this is more exciting.
Go ahead.
There's a documentary film going to be done on our trip to Sierra Leone. South Carolina Educational TV, they looked at our program. They thought it was worthy for a documentary film to be made on this trip. See, 30 years ago, they did a film called Family Across the Sea when the first group of Gullahs visited an African country ever. They went to Sierra Leone in 1989. So there was a documentary film that was done by South Carolina Educational TV. They will be doing a sequel 30 years later on this trip. So next year, also, we're hoping to do a documentary film on Priscilla's homecoming because, like I said, the story I just told you about the 10-year-old girl, there is no such story in the world. And we're excited about doing these types of trips to Africa, not just for the fanfare. It is important that, we bring back a sense of self-identity to our fellow African American brothers and sisters. By doing so, many people, when they go home, they connect. It changes their lives in a positive way. And we think that the more of that we do, the better it is in terms of changing our narrative with regard to Black people, not just in America, but worldwide. We need to connect or reconnect back to the motherland. Those of us who can. We know not everyone wants to do that, and that's fine. We would like to work with those who are really interested in doing that. And let's see how we can change this narrative.
Let's see here, guys. Again, please hit that like button as you come into the chat room. I'm waiting. Let's see here if I got the email. Here we go. I think this is your email. Okay, yeah, let me put the link. Guys, this is the link to Brother Aamdu's YouTube page. So please, when you guys get a chance, make sure you go and subscribe. You said subscribe, right? Subscribe.
Yes.
Make sure you go subscribe. And you said the 1,000th.
first 1,000 subscribers, we will choose someone who will win a free DNA kit.
Okay.
And we hopefully it'll turn out to be Sierra Leonean. And then secondly, for next year, the first paid 20 deposits, for the 2020 trip, we'll choose one person, one lucky person, to get a free airfare to Sierra Leone.
Okay. There we go. Repeat that one more time for people that,
Okay.
one more time for people.
Number one is that the first 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube site, we will choose one person to get a free DNA kit. Secondly,
now which company? From which company?
Well, I was trying to keep that a surprise. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yes. And then secondly, the first 20 paid deposits for next year's trip, we will choose one person for a free air ticket to Sierra Leone and back. Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, we're more over and beyond just the fanfare. When we go to Sierra Leone, for example, we're not going to be doing beach tourism. We go to a couple of parties, but it's more about a historical study tour, and that's what we're there for. We have a 10-day program, and it's run, pretty much. We have some downtime, but this is not a fun tour for. It's a historical study tour, so it goes beyond just the other kind of stuff.
All right, perfect. Let's see what else we got here in this chat room, guys. Again, thank you so much for joining. Again, like I said, I have to check though. I have to check because my situation, as far as me being Nigerian, is unique. But still, I definitely don't want to. Like I said, I'm Nigerian. I don't want to. I'm not giving that up. So yeah, but my situation is very unique.
But look at what my shirt says. You see what my shirt says?
What does it say? Made in Africa. A family.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Whether Nigeria.
Okay.
It shouldn't really matter. But I'll tell you one thing: there are very close links between Nigerians and Sierra Leoneans. Let me tell you how or why.
Go.
All right.
Go into detail.
So when the slave trade was abolished by the Brits in 1807.
Okay.
And can you hear me?
Yeah.
And then by the US in 1808. Every ship that had enslaved Africans on leaving for the Americas would be, not every ship, many ships, captured or recaptured, right? And they will bring those Africans on those voyages to Sierra Leone, regardless of where they came from. So we have people from Congo, we have people from Angola. They're Sierra Leoneans today because this is 250 years ago, well, since 1807. And many, many, many Nigerians. 90% of those people that were recaptured, we call them liberated Africans, were taken to Sierra Leone. So today in Sierra Leone, there are thousands of Sierra Leoneans that have ancestry in the Yoruba people of Nigeria. And up to today, we keep those links. So, in fact, my work, part of what I do, Prince, is that I go to areas where Sierra Leoneans may have descendants, and I reconnect with them, and we try to do stuff that can hopefully lead to economic empowerment activities. So, I've been to Jamaica, where we have links to some maroons in Jamaica, 1800. I went to Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. And I start seeing signs, Freetown, Stansfield, on some structure. So I did a little bit of research. Did you want to ask something? Oh,
no, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I did a little bit of research, and I found out that there was a Sierra Leone road in Diego Martin, which is just outside of Port of Spain. And lo and behold, there were some Sierra Leoneans that were taken there as enslaved Africans during slavery. Just a few. But after slavery, over 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 people were taken to Trinidad and Tobago from Sierra Leone as indentured servants. Now, some of those people were Sierra Leoneans, but the majority of them were Nigerians from Sierra Leone, taken to Trinidad and Tobago as indentured servants. So, indentured servitude was a cute way of replacing slavery. So even though these guys got they were not slaves. So many people left from Sierra Leone to Trinidad and Tobago, left from Sierra Leone to Jamaica, and also to Dutch Guyana in those days. So the points I'm trying to make is that we have links in many of these different parts of the Caribbean, of course, in North America, even in Africa, Nigeria, strong links. What my company tries to do is to bring it all together. See what I'm saying? So, for example, this year we have a tour for Gola Geechee going to Sierra Leone. Next year, we plan to have a tour for Maroons, not just Maroons from Jamaica, but Maroons globally, because some Maroons went back to Africa, and these guys settled in Sierra Leone in 1800s. There's a Maroon community in Africa that we can reconnect with. Similarly, we've been to Carriacou, just outside of Grenada. There's a small island there that thousands of people from my country were taken to, and they still do a dance and some kind of rendition that they perform to show their Temini, which is one of the major tribes in Sierra Leone, major ethnic groups, Teminis, are there in Carriacou. So we visited Carriacou with government in I think it was 2016, and now we're hoping to take them back home to do their own side or their own part of the deal, because we've visited. Now they need to go back home and reconnect. So we do these types of things, and the more of them, other Africans too, because I'm only doing Sierra Leone. Maybe you should start doing Nigeria. Can you imagine trying to connect the Nigerian diaspora? That would be a big deal.
I'm doing Nigeria.
Okay, that's good. You have Nigerians in Carriacou, in Grenada. You have Nigerians in Trinidad and Tobago, descendants of Nigerians. We need to go find them. I'll go with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's not just Nigeria. There's also Ghanaians. For example, when I talk about the Gola Geechee relationships,
right,
it's not just Sierra Leone. There was a place called the Rice Coast, because the Africans that came to the Carolinas and Georgia were brought there specifically for their rice cultivating skills. Nothing else. Well, primarily, if they didn't have rice growing skills, they were not of much interest to those plantation owners in South Carolina and Georgia. So along Africa, starting from Senegal to Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, these 6 countries traditionally have grown rice. That's their staple food. So from that region, and all the way down to Mali, Nigeria, all the way down to Angola, Africans were brought to these United States. However, those that went to South Carolina and Georgia and eventually became Geechees or Golas, primarily from that rice growing coast of Africa.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, when those guys came, they came with mosquitoes that give malaria and typhoid. Because of that, those mosquitoes were able to breed in those semi-tropical areas, and eventually, when the plantation owners, Caucasian males and females, their families, they would die from malaria. When they got bitten by the mosquitoes, they would die. Africans, of course, that developed resistance or some kind of immunity to malaria. So when the Caucasians found out that they were dying, what did? They moved away. And that is how the Gola culture was able to thrive and succeed up to what it is today. Because outside of all of these white masters, these people were able to maintain their culture, their heritage, their African names, which they call basket names today, and the culture developed. Now, at one point in history, South Carolina had a black majority. Peter Wood talks about it in his book that he wrote in 1974. In fact, it was in that book that it became known to the world that these Africans that were in these rice plantations came specifically from that rice coast area I just mentioned to you. Mainly those 6 countries, but also going all the way down to Angola. What else can I tell you about this story? Oh, when you go to Sierra Leone, you need to go to Bonds Island.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, Bonds
I know.
Island is a unique place, but it's a place that when I take African Americans there on the tour, it's a sombering experience. And it doesn't matter where your ancestry is from because the stories are pretty much the same or similar. You can go to Ghana and get a similar story. However, to the United States, Sierra Leoneans were brought from one small place of Africa and taken to one small place of America over a long period of time for us to be able to influence Gola culture in a major way. I'll give you one quick example um, with regard to language. So Lorenzo Turner wrote a book called Africanisms in the Gola dialect.
Uh-huh.
The reason why Turner wrote his book was to rebut the philosophy or the concept that Africans didn't know, I mean, these black people didn't know how to speak English or they had speech impediments and so on and so forth. Lorenzo Turner in in the 1930s, he said, no, these guys talk like that because they have Afrikaans or Africanisms in their dialects. This is an African race, right? And so when he was doing that stuff, he was able to record a lot of words and names from different African groups or languages. 25%, he didn't count the statistics, someone else did after him. 25% of the loanwords and names that he found in the Gola language are from groups or ethnic groups that are in Sierra Leone. So Mende, Timini, Vai, and so on. 25%. So we do know we have some special connections to African Americans who are Gola Geechees, but also other African Americans who are not necessarily Gola Geechees that were taken to Maryland, for example, or Virginia. There were Sierra Leoneans and Nigerians and Ghanaians taken to these other places, not necessarily in South Carolina and Georgia. So there's a lot we can do in terms of reconnecting. I like to say this. We need to confront the legacy of the transatlantic slave trade. We have not done it enough in Africa, nor have we done it enough in the West.
Uh-huh.
I don't think other people are going to do it for us. I think it's up to us to take the mantle and let's confront, the history by just telling our stories, and confronting the legacy of the slave trade.
Guys, let's get these likes up. What we'll do, Brother Amadou, do you have about 30 more minutes, 30 more minutes or?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so we're going to open the lines up. If you want to call in or hop on and ask a question, please no trolling. If you want to hop on, email is in the chat room. Please email me. I will send you a link and you're more than welcome to ask a question. Again, if you want to hop on, ask a question, email is in the chat room. Amadou, are you in? Where are you currently now?
I'm in Dallas, Texas. Believe it or not.
Oh, Dallas, Texas. Okay.
This is where I live. Yes. I go to Sierra Leone every now and then, back and forth.
Okay.
But I didn't even tell you about a group of Golas that have done some remarkable stuff. And these guys are the Black Seminoles. Ever heard that term?
Black Seminoles.
Yes.
As in Indian?
Yeah.
Well, see, we got to be specific because you got these pseudo Black Indians who will take that and say that they're Indians, that they're indigenous to America. But you're saying that the Gulas that call themselves Black Seminoles actually came from Africa.
Yes, of course.
Okay, because people hear Black Seminoles. See, I told you, I am an Olmecan Seminole Moor from Turtle Island, and we were here in America. See, they will take that and they just So you got to be specific. Black Seminoles from Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Go ahead.
But there's a story. There's a story that clearly shows that Golas ran away from slavery and into the Florida wilderness.
Okay.
And there they coexisted with Seminole Indians. Okay. Right? Over the years, they were able to intermarry and have kids. You see, I've seen pictures of black folks wearing Indian attire, and these Indians were turned on to rice.
Right, and see, and
So,
again, you have the this group that will say that those black Indians were indigenous copper colored Moors,
so where did
indigenous
they
to
come
America.
from? From
They were here in America. That's what they will say. They were here in
no,
America.
no, 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 no. They don't know the history enough then, because it's documented. And let me tell you, that story is remarkable. That story will help change the historical narrative of America. Once the Black Seminole story is fully understood and appreciated, it will help change the historical narrative of this country.
Right.
Blacks, you mark my words, Prince. These guys ran away from slavery, went into Florida, uh, fought all their lives against other Indians and against the U.S. Army. They hold the entire U.S. Army at bay for 6 years.
Oh
These were
wow.
Africans. The general that was overseeing the war, he wrote back to Washington at one time saying, "You guys better believe this is not an Indian war; it's a Negro war." He said it in so many words. And
Right.
also, when the Black Seminoles, when they went to Oklahoma eventually, some Creek Indians tried to mess with them. They fought back. Of course, I mean, these guys have withstood the entire U.S. Army. They're not going to succumb to Creek Indians. So anyway, they left there and they went to Nacimiento. Some of them went from Oklahoma. They went to Nacimiento, Texas.
Uh-huh.
Nacimiento, Mexico. I'm all confused with the story. They went to Mexico in Nacimiento. There again, they fought against Indians. The U.S. Texas Rangers went down there to try to destroy their community. They held them off. These fighting Indians, that's what I call them, fighting Black Indians. Eventually, some of them were hired by the U.S. Cavalry, and they moved back from Nacimiento to Brackettville, Texas,
Okay.
where about three of them had the highest honor ever given to American soldiers. But the Black Seminoles are not indigenous to these.
Okay.
Came from Africa. That's where the origin is. And they met with Seminoles in Florida, and they became a nation. Black Seminoles.
Oh well, we just got a history lesson. Guys, hit the like button. Again, if you want to call in and ask a question, my email is in the chat room. Send me email. I'll send you the link, and you'll be more than welcome to call in and ask your question. Again, I'm impressed with Sierra Leone for leading the way. I mean, Sierra Leone is truly leading the way with the year of return. I mean, don't get me wrong. The name ceremonies, the dancing, all that's important. But I know a lot of Black Americans want something tangible in regards to reconnecting back to Africa. And they're doing that by giving them citizenship without all the red tape. So I think that's powerful. Me personally, I just think that's powerful. I know everyone's talking about Ghana as far as year of return, but really Sierra Leone is leading the way.
That's a good point. That's a good point you're making. And not to knock on my Ghanaian friends, I know they've been. I remember when Barack Obama, in his first term as president, went to visit Cape Coast. There was a Ghanaian official there telling him that all African Americans came through Cape Coast, and they probably thought Obama believed that. But anyway, the second time it was Senegal. He went to Gorée Island, I think.
Right here to Gore, yeah.
They told him the same thing there. See, we're not saying that with regard to Sierra Leone, but I'll tell you, I just mentioned the Mende song, right? That's been kept by a private family for over 250 years. I mentioned Priscilla, the 10-year-old girl that was taken from Sierra Leone in 1756. You know about the Amistad story. That was a Sierra Leonean story.
Yeah, he was Mende, right?
So, and the first principal of Furua Bay College, which was a first tertiary institution in Africa below the Sahara, was a Gola man. So not only did Sierra Leoneans come here as slaves, I mentioned the return. So there's a two-way connection between Sierra Leone and African Americans, because some African Americans that fought alongside the British in the American Revolutionary War.
Right.
The Brits lost the war. Those guys were taken to Halifax, Nova Scotia. They were called
Right.
like 3,000 of them.
Right.
Of those 3,000, 1,200 of them went back home to Sierra Leone. Now, some of those guys, at least one of them, or maybe three in total, but at least one of them who we're doing a documentary film on is John Kiesel. John Kiesel was born in Sierra Leone at age 13. He was taken into slavery. He was bought by a lady, a German, who owned a tavern in Charleston. So whilst there, he taught himself how to read and write. And because of that, he became the African, one of the few Africans who were able to tell the story of the transatlantic slave trade in the eyes of an African.
Right.
So his work is published, it's saved or reserved at some British museums today. And William Wilberforce and those guys who were leading the abolitionist movement use his writings a lot to make their case with regard to the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade. So there's a two-way connection between Sierra Leoneans and Gullahs is the point I'm trying to make, and that's deep. And we're not trying to say that all Gullahs have origin in Sierra Leone, but we do know that because of this evidence that we have today, it is undeniable that people from my country were brought here as slaves. And as enslaved people, not only were they brought here, they were brought here they came with skills that the white man didn't have. That's called a spade, Frank. Rice cultivation. They didn't have it. That's why they went looking for us, right? Even though, I don't want to get political, but even though we're supposed to be dumb and don't know anything, but there they are going to look for us for our rice growing skills. And we made rice one of the most successful industries in this country, if not the first successful industry. And South Carolina was the wealthiest of the colonies. These are all based on facts that, the rice plantations catapulted this country as it is. I firmly believe that it was from those days when rice was successful and these colonies made all that money. That is what catapulted these great United States to where they are today. And I'm not asking for reparations. I just want to, talk about the facts, the narrative, and let's see how we can, try to change the narrative because, yeah.
All right, guys, let's get these likes up. Again, if you want to call in, you're more than welcome to call in. We were from the east and forced to West Africa. Okay, I don't know what he's talking about there. In Jamaica, there was a native indigenous race called the Tainos. Called the Tainos, American Indians, that's the term, but they were killed off by the British invaders. Yeah, just about all the indigenous tribes were killed off. Now, is it true that the Black Americans who fought on the side of the British that went to Canada, that I thought the majority of them went to Britain, but I guess Britain had reneged on giving them their pensions, so they said forget it, take it to Sierra Leone. Is that true or?
No, the majority of them actually were taken to Canada.
Then to Britain or straight from Canada to Sierra Leone?
They were taken from the US to Halifax, Nova Scotia. And from Halifax, Nova Scotia, 15 ships left with about 1,200 Black loyalists to go to Sierra Leone. And in fact, when they got there, the women had to vote in for some leadership elections they had. It was the first time women were voting anywhere in the world. So we claim that too. Also, the guys who ran Buns Island at one time, Richard Oswald, he had an agent in Charleston named Henry Lawrence. So they worked together over the years. Oswald would send slave Africans to Lawrence in Charleston, and he would sell them, and he'll make a 10% commission on the sales. Why I'm bringing those 2 guys up is that when America and the Brits went to Paris to sign the Treaty of Paris. One of those guys was with three other people, was Richard Oswald, Hunt Island at one time. On the other side was Henry Lawrence, his partner. So they went together, to negotiate the Treaty of Paris that gave America ultimately its independence. Along Henry Lawrence was Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, and John Adams. So I want you to listen to this. In some strange way, Sierra Leoneans believe, or we can claim, that the independence of these great United States were done between Sierra Leone, a guy who ran operations in Sierra Leone, a slave, trader, and his agent. It was not by coincidence that those two guys were on the team. You see what I'm saying? They were on the team because they had a relationship. Britain and U.S., Oswald and Lawrence. So, that helped those discussions, because these guys were trying to make sure that this thing was done quickly so they can continue their slave trading business. It was so profitable. And then another example I can give, and I'm just talking.
No, go ahead.
Giving information. America and France went to war 4 times. No, not America. Britain and war. Great Britain and the French. They went to war 4 times. Each time they would go to war, the France will go all the way to Sierra Leone and bombard Buns Island, flatten it, because they knew it was a revenue generator for the Brits. 4 times they did it. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So last year I went. It was this year in March. I went to an African diaspora conference in Coastal Carolina University. They have a Joyner Institute of Black Studies there, doing some good work, and I was able to meet some really cool people. So when we go to Sierra Leone this time, some of them are on our group, on our team as our guests. We'll be looking at study abroad programs. So, for example, how do we create a curriculum that will have students, African American students, Caucasian students, it doesn't matter, that will take courses that will talk about part of this history. Also, how do we get these kind of studies in high schools in America? Because Black children especially need to know the story. One of my dreams is that if we can get every Black African American child to go to Africa before they even go to college, it will change their lives positively forever, and it will open up their minds like you never knew it. The Jews have something they do when they send their kids back home, some kind of Passover, something, I don't know. Wherever they are in the world, those who can afford it, they send their kids to Jerusalem for some kind of pilgrimage. And I'm saying in the future that if we can do this for African American children, our youth, man, I see good things happening with that, because when we come back here, they would know who they are and what they can be. It will be clear. So I want you to help me with that, Prince. How do we get those things going? Moving beyond the fanfare.
As far as all African Americans visiting Africa,
those who can work with us, not all. Those who can afford it, those who want to do it. There are millions of people like that.
I think what we're doing now, as far as having these conversations and sparking people.
Sure.
This right here is definitely a start. So yeah, we're doing the work now. There's some people in the chat room who say, "Oh, how do people find out about your tour? More information on your tour? What's the contact? Who do they need to reach out to?"
I missed that. I'm sorry, I didn't get that clearly.
People who want more information on the tour.
Oh yes.
How do they get?
First of all, we have a website called famboutique.com.
Say it again.
Famboutique, FAMBULTIK.com.
Okay.
So that's the
one more time. FAM.
F as in Frank. A M as in Mary. B as in boy.
Okay.
U as in umbrella. L as in Larry,
Okay.
T as in Tony,
Uh-huh.
I as in Ann, K as in Kate.
.com.
Famultik. Yeah. That
Okay.
is that means family tree in Creole.
Okay.
So Famultik is a Creole word or pidgin word. It means family tree. That's who we are. See the family and the tree? That's our logo.
Mm. See what else we
But I'm
have
really
here.
excited about, talking to you about this. When Xina mentioned it to me, I was a little wary at first because I'm not used to doing these kinds of things. But I think it's a way to go in terms of getting our word across to, the populace
Right.
in terms of what we do and what we want to do going forward. And I want to invite you on my trip, one of my trips next year, Prince, the one we do next year.
Okay. It depends. Just depends when, because I go back and forth to Nigeria. So just let me know. Let me know when.
Yeah, well,
I know when you guys will be there this year. I'll be in Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso and
mhm.
Benin Republic. So just let me know.
So I was going to ask you, so what do you do in all these places? Seems like you're a guy that can really help us promote Africa.
Yeah, just I focus more on the culture. Um, so I just enjoy having these conversations, documenting the culture, meeting the people. Getting African Americans, really the Black diaspora, interested in going to these places. So that's what I do. And then, like I said, I've been doing tours to Nigeria, to my kingdom, Nigeria of Oruruo. So that's where my descendants, well, not
Yeah,
descendants, my ancestors. That's where they come from. They come from Oruruo in Nigeria. So I've been spending a
that's
lot of time.
fantastic. See, if we get more guys like you doing that kind of stuff, before you know it, man, we have a movement going.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what we'll do, again, if anyone wants to call in, you have the email me, search for huru@gmail.com. If not, we'll go ahead and close out. Brother Amadou, anything else you'd like to share in closing?
Oh, well, I think I've said all that I could say with regard to making sure that we reconnect in a real way. If I have a last word out there is to make sure that, hey, um, if you if you're an African American, gravitated towards your African culture and history, and self-identification, self-reparation, if you will. Um, follow your heart. Follow your heart and get things done. You have to take a DNA test, go ahead and do it. If you have to visit the country, go ahead and do it. And let's just be open with things.
Mm. And like I said, you know, I Sierra Leone is definitely leading the way. I will have to say that they are definitely leading the way. So, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and close out. How can people, one more time, how can people reach out to you and contact you before we close out?
Sure. Well, we have our website, famultic.com. We just talked about it. And I
Uh-huh.
also talked about the competition we have. First 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel will get a free, one of them will get a free DNA kit. And the big one is that next year when we go to Sierra Leone, if we have, you know, up to uh, 20,000 people, we will, 20 paid deposits, sorry. If we have 20 paid deposits, one of those 20 paid deposits, one of those people will get a free tickets to Sierra Leone. And it'll be on a first come, first serve basis. They would have to pay the land portion, but for sure the flights will be on us. And will take. And we look forward to these type of dialogues in the future, Mr. Prince Dynasty.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you go to dynastamir.com. Go to dynastamir.com. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're new to the platform, also hit that notification bell. Also, our tour is coming up in March 20th to the 26th to Nigeria. So if you're interested, please email me, uhuru@searchforhuru.com, or just go to dynastymir.com and send me a message. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror, search for Uhuru. Peace.
Thank you.